would like to give a huge shout out to Gun Central Shop. This is where I get all of my third-party model kits. They have been a huge supporter to the channel. So if you are looking into getting your own third-party model kits, I'll go ahead and leave a link in the description.
Hey, what is up everyone, and welcome back to the Animus, and today is the day we're going to be reviewing the Hemoxian Tastier. Let's get right to it. First off, like I always commence my reviews, we're going to start with the tools I used for this actual model kit. And for this model kit, I only needed my nippers and my hobby knife. You can also, instead of a hobby knife, use a gate remover, but in some areas it's better to use a hobby knife. But if you do want to add a gate remover or a sanding stick to your tools, then you can, although that is not really required. This was very straightforward when building, very quick to build as well, if I might add. And it was not something that, it wasn't like other builds that we've had on the channel where I've had to, take like a few weeks to build it because it just takes so much time. This was actually pretty straightforward. And the fact that Hemoxian packs every step individually, then it actually helped me a lot throughout the building process. Now heading on into additional parts for the kit. So I did have a part in my H3 runner, which for the life of me, I can't figure out where this small part goes. If anybody here in the comments has built this kit, please let me know in the comments where this little piece here goes. I am not sure, maybe I missed it in the actual manual or something like that, but I'm guessing it's either a spare part, or if not, then I honestly don't know where it goes. Next up, for additional parts, you do have something for the magazine. So I know that this kit does have magazines for the actual assault rifles themselves. However, this piece right here would replace that as well. You do get two of them on the runners, and the reason why I left them on the runners is because I'm probably going to store them like that so they don't get lost. I've had issues in the past where I store small pieces like these and they'll get lost, or they'll fall out of the Ziploc bag for some reason. So I'd rather just keep them like this, but this piece right here will replace the magazines, which we'll show you in a second. Next up, you do have joints and pieces for the actual model to posing itself. You do have an actual holster for the knives or the blades of the knives, and you do have other joints that are used when posing the model kit itself. Aside from that, I did also notice that they did include an additional plate carrier for the actual base, which is actually pretty neat. Aside from that, you do have extra parts for the base here, which these are covers for the holes, and we will go through them in a minute when it comes to detailing for the actual base itself. Basically, the base also serves as like a holder for the weapons, and these are meant to cover the holes that are actually, left from that. Now, moving on to the actual water slide decals for this kit and the actual metal etching parts. This kit has two sets of metal etching parts. One that was included with the actual dog, and then one that was included with the actual model itself. To my knowledge, they both are pretty similar in regards to things that it contains, but I love the fact that they decided to do 3 different spreadsheets for the water slide decals and the actual metal etching as well. Mind you that all of these 3 come packed separately. So you do have the model kit that's packed separately, the base that's packed separately, and the dog that's packed separately. So even if you want to do this like a combined build with somebody else, you don't have to jump over each other while you're building it. You can actually choose whatever it is that you want to build and then go from there. And now we're going to talk about one of the elephants in the room, which is going to be the actual coat and the materials of the coat for the Hemoxian Tastier. Now here I have it in its display form. I am glad that they decided to include a diagram that shows how to install the actual coat itself on the model. And I have to tell you that it is a little bit annoying to do so, if I do say so myself, considering that you do have to take apart your model and slide the sleeves into the arms, etc., and you have to go through a lot to do that. Aside from that, when you're posing the model, you can actually see the creases in the seams and the holes in the seams for the actual coat, and it just depends on how you are going to pose the model. when it comes to this, but this actually does have a way, it has wires all over it, so you can go ahead and pose it however you want, and it'll let you give your model that little aerodynamic pose, or you know, standing on top of buildings when hitting your model type of thing, if you want to say it like that. Love the fact that they did include a nice material for it. It is cloth material, so when you are displaying your model, you can see that, and it does contrast well with the model kit itself. All right, so now into the clear parts for the kit. And in the unboxing, I did mention that I like the fact that they made a unique design when it came to sword slash and stuff like that for the actual clear parts. However, upon further inspection, you know, the color for the actual clear parts, it is not that great, and it might look good when the light is reflecting on it, from when you look at it from the camera, and it does have a nice design, but I would have wished that they would have used a little bit more of a brighter color to represent the actual clear parts for this model. Aside from that, you do get 2 face plates, and you get additional parts for both the dog and your Tastier itself, and I believe that that is great, because in my case I lost one of the visors, and I was glad that the actual dog brought spare visor that I could use on the Tastier. Aside from that, you do have your effect parts for your firing weapons, and this is pretty similar to the 30-minute mission ones, where you just attach them to the actual burst effect as well. You do have your sword slash effects for whenever you are posing with a sword slash, or if you do want to pose stationary with the actual blades itself, you can do it as well. And next up, we're gonna have one of the crown jewels of this kit is going to be the base itself. So this base does have a cool gimmick, and we'll go through it in a second. You do have the nameplate here. I was planning on painting this model kit, but I will say I do have some second thoughts about that, and we will talk about that whenever I bring the Tastier out. This does have a lot of potential for dry brushing, or trying to give it a look like that cyberpunk look, because you do have grills, or you do have slots to go ahead and post the weapons here and post the Tastier in the front. You do have the slots at the bottom, so you can go ahead and post a weapon. You do have the nameplate display here, aside from the actual additional nameplate for the Tastier that you can mount on the base. Aside from that, this kit does have a lot of space for you to store weapons and such, as you can see right here. Any additional parts or anything, you can go ahead and throw them here. Specifically with the clear parts, you will be able to fit those in there. Now, for the one thing that I did want to mention about this kit is that this kit does have a gimmick. And the gimmick for this kit is that you can actually change how the base looks. Now, if you don't want the wall of the weapons showing, all you got to do is go ahead and close it like so, and you have a base to display your model without the backdrop there. Now, another thing that's included and really cool about this base is that includes a back piece with a really hard metal rod for posing your model and giving that dynamic pose. And the reason why I say this is because if you're trying to pose the model kit with the actual dog and everything, you might want to use this to get those aerial poses that you would like, and actually get those dynamic poses while posing your Tastier. Now, aside from that, the base is super sturdy, and it doesn't matter, you know, if you shake it a little bit while the model is on there, the model will hold true to it. Now, I do have to say that I would have liked if the Tastier would have had foot pegs, so that way it would hold on to the base itself if you just wanted to give it a stationary pose. However, I can overlook that, considering the fact that, you know, you can go ahead and pose it in an aerial pose with the actual stand, which will look great. So now for the weapon portion of this model kit, and I do have to say that this thing does pack a wallop, and it does have an armory of things to include the dog, right? Which is why I included the dog here. I do have to say that some of the hands do come together with actual parts, and you know, you do have to use the handles on the parts and attach them themselves. So just keep that in mind whenever you are putting together this kit. If you are having issues with putting the hands together, it's because you do need to put the actual sheaths or handles on the hands so the hands attach together. I found that a little weird while I was putting this together, that it didn't just have pegs or anything like that to hold the weapons. You literally had to add the piece of the weapon on it, so it would actually go ahead and hold on to the hand itself, and the hand would hold on together. It was a little weird to me at first, but you know, now it makes sense once the kit is all together. So you do have some assault rifles that are full of detail, and they do have gimmicks for you to do and pose with the kit itself, to include removable magazines. I think that that is a cool feature for the model itself, and it does open the door for a lot of customization or custom colors for it. You do get 2 of those, which is actually pretty great when you're posing. You also do have this Desert Eagle style hands with weapons, and this is probably my favorite feature of these weapons, is that you can go ahead and cock them back and forth. That is actually a cool feature here for this weapon. And in case you do want to pose, then you can go ahead and pose it to the back, or pose them to the front, you know, like they're actually you know, running into battery there, going into battery there. So that's pretty cool when it comes to this model, that you can pose like that. You also do have the daggers for that, with the fist for the daggers as well. There's a few ways that you can actually pose this, considering the Tastier does also have attached weapon systems in the forearms, where you can use to attach all of these to the arms as well. Moving on to the dog, the dog has a lot of flexibility when it comes to posing, as well as the I want to say this is an assault beam rifle or a railgun there. I think that the only thing that gripe that I had with this was that when posing with the model kit itself, it does look a little weird, because it's just stationary there, and it is a monocolored thing. I would have wished that they would have color separated this a little bit better, so it would stand out. Aside from that, this is probably one of the coolest features I've seen in a model kit so far, as an add-on part. So the dog itself also does have its own posability, as well as you can detach the parts on it and attach it to the Tastier in different ways, because it is like an accessory add-on to it. It's not just like I said, like an aid to the model kit. These are actual parts that you can attach to the Tastier itself to enhance the actual model. And now for the actual feature for this review, which is going to be the Tastier itself. One thing that I do want to mention about this kit is that this kit does have an LED in the head, and it's a little tricky at first, but once you get used to it, then you can go ahead and turn it on and go ahead. And it is pretty bright when you do have it in a display setting. One thing that I did notice is that because it is a singular LED light, if you are looking at it directly, you can't actually see the actual reticle for the LED, and it's just beaming at you. So I think that a flat coat on the actual visor itself would actually fix that. The only problem that I see with that is that the metal etching on the inside will probably not be visible if you do that. Now, I know that most of you were asking me about why I had the delay, and the reason why I had the delay is because these arms are not sturdy at all. As you can see, I barely touched this, and this fell right off. And it's because the actual arm has a peg that goes into the actual bicep itself to put it together. Now, these red parts that you see all over the kit, these are rubber parts, and we'll talk about those in a second. But I had needed to wait for a replacement part for the actual joint itself, which was this part with the actual peg, because when I was trying to pose it, it actually broke or cracked, and I didn't want to have to deal with that, so I went ahead and got a spare one, so that way we can go ahead and get that done. Aside from that, my only complaint about this kit in general, and I'm gonna get that right out of the way, is the fact that we have all these rubber parts on the model. Now, the reason why I say that I'm not too happy about that is because I was planning on painting this kit, and if you are going to paint this kit, these rubber parts are going to be a problem. So unless you're trying to keep them red, it's just going to be a problem. Same thing with panel lining. I don't see how you would panel line these without damaging the part, or without the panel line fading, or staining the part in the long run. But like I said, it shouldn't turn you away from the model kit if you're just going to straight build it. It's just a concern of mine because I was planning on painting the model kit itself. Now, for flexibility for the kit does have amazing posability. I'm not going to take that away from the kit because the kit does have a lot of possibilities when it comes to being posed. You can do it in dynamic poses, stationary poses, weapon drawing poses, firing poses. It does have a lot of flexibility, which is really good. So you do have the neck joint here, which you have a giggity geek, and you have side to side, and you can go all the way to the back because the neck is double jointed, and that is actually really good. Your arms will go all the way around because the actual shoulder armor is attached to the arm itself and not the actual model. You do have a bicep that does not move. It is completely stationary, but you can move the bottom of the arm. And that's where it becomes concerning, considering that the peg is actually very, very sensitive and it can fall out while you're moving it. For the shoulders, you do have an additional area where you can just go ahead and push it forward and bring it all the way out to the front so you can get dynamic poses. You do have pieces and parts that move accordingly to make space for that movement that you're trying to make with the model. Now, I'm glad this happened because I've been having issues with that as well. The shoulder pieces, the shoulder parts are a little sensitive when it comes to posing, and you will lose that outer shell if you are doing a hard pose. So just make sure you're just gentle with it altogether so you don't lose that. For the actual hand itself, the hand does not have any flexible movement aside from going all the way around. So that is, that is just expected for something like that. Moving on to the additional weapons system that I was mentioning before, you do have the actual weapons here where you can draw and you can actually use to actually add either pistols or swords or beam sabers, or you can use the assault rifles as well and attach them to the system for posing. Now for the actual torso, the torso does not go a lot side to side, but you do have kind of a piston system in there that will show you, that will give you that little bit of flexibility and posing that you are looking for in a model kit. As you can see, we already have parts falling off, which is not not great when it comes to this kit. This is just held on by a peg there, and it will slide out. It's not really a big issue because it won't break at all, but it's just a little flap there. We'll talk about that in a second. Aside from that, you do have a full crunch to the front, and then you can lift it to the back, and you can see those pistons, how they stretch out, and you can actually see the innards of the model itself. That's actually pretty cool when it comes to this model. You do have your belt in the waist that actually moves, so that way you can pose the model however you want. Same with the skirt flaps in the front and the skirt flap in the back, which will lift and then fall off if you try to pose it too hard. But I'm actually glad that it's not hollow. You can actually see an inner piece in here that will cover that area. Another good feature about this kit when you're posing is that for the actual waist itself, it has a two-piece waist, so you can get that extra bend when you are posing your model kit. Now, moving on to the legs, I don't really have much to say about the legs except the fact that you do have that area down there where you could just extend it. Aside from that, you do have a complete all-around 360 turn with the legs themselves, and you do have a full bend of your knee, which is completely awesome when it comes to mechanics, because as you can see, it just goes ahead and moves the whole mechanical area when you are moving the model, and you can see how everything just stretches out for the model kit itself. And then when you are posing it back, it just retracts itself. Really cool. I think that's really awesome. They decided to add those, and I know that the fact that they had rubber pieces actually helped the model to pose, which is actually pretty good. Aside from the fact that, well, you can't really paint them. I know that there's paint out there to paint rubber parts. I I just don't feel that I could trust it enough for the parts not to get ruined, considering that these are actually parts that hold legs and arms together and other parts together. And if you do mess this up or break it, then you're out of luck when it comes to replacement parts. Now for the feet and all that, it does have a full turn twist for your ankle, and it does have from side to side to include a hidden piston that is inside the actual leg itself. You do have your back and forth for the foot, and you can see how that piston just shows out there when you are moving the leg. You also do have your toe bend up and down for the feet. Overall, I say that this is one of the best kits that I've had for posing in a while, considering that you do not have a lot of things that get in the way when you're posing it, and it does have a lot of possibilities when you're trying to get that dynamic pose out of the model kit. Now that we've talked about everything that goes with the model, I do have to talk about some negatives. The kit itself does have an issue when it comes to the rubber parts, where some of them are not going to be seated well as they should be when you are posing the model kit. You do have the issue where some parts, like this one that I just kind of pushed out of place there, are held by small pegs that move around in the model, and I know that they did that for flexibility, but the problem with that is that the actual pegs themselves are super short, so if you do push the part in the wrong way, it might fall off. So just keep that in mind when you are building this model kit. Like all model kits, when I say, just try to be careful when posing so you don't have any parts falling off. And then the other negative that I have for the kit is going to be the actual arms. I do not like the fact that these were just pegs that attach together. Like, I know why they did it, and I know that posability is a big issue, but for example, they could have made a double joint for the elbow, but they didn't. And I don't know, I just feel like this is just not great when it comes to this model kit. Aside from that, this is a great display piece. It is a nice, unique kit. And for some of you, I believe that this relates more to like Iron Man model kits when it comes to the build process and the actual posability for the model. So just keep that in mind. If you have built some of those kits, then you will find it a lot relatable to this one when you're building it. Pretty straightforward build, pretty easy build, I might add, aside from the fact that it does have a few issues here and there, none that have to do with the actual build itself. And that is it for today's video. I really do hope you enjoyed this review. If you have comments, tell me, do you have this kit? How was it for you? Did you like building it? Leave a comment, tell me how it went, how it worked out. We are currently working on the Oberon, and we're actually working as well on the Achilles. So you will see those in the channel soon. So just keep a lookout for those. And if you do like my content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out some of the links at the bottom of the description as well. And if you are looking for one of these, you can go ahead and get them at Gundam Central. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.